You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Mark Matthews.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Inside the Mix podcast. If you are a new listener, make sure you hit follow on your podcast player of choice. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell so you get notified of any new episodes. And to the returning listeners and viewers, a big welcome back. So if you've listened to any of my productions of late, probably going back to, I think the last one was December. Yeah, it was December of 2023. I like to use a stutter gate effect on synths, and I've used the kilohertz, I think that's how it's pronounced, trance gate to do that. And it got me thinking, could I do something similar in Logic Pro using just native plugins? Could I use something like a sidechain to create a similar effect? So that's what I'm going to do in this episode. We're going to create a stutter synth effect using sidechain in Logic Pro. So let's give it a go. Here we are in the Logic Pro session, and this is the session I used in episode 155 where I went through a ghost kick tutorial. And what I've done is I've added a synth pad progression here. So it's in the key of B flat minor, 105 BPM. And I'm going to play you the desired outcome. So this is the synth with the stutter effect. So that's what we're aiming for. Now, admittedly, it's probably not my final synth patch choice. I will go in and doctor and move it around a bit in terms of some parameters, as it's a bit too abrasive for my liking. But I've made it that way so it's obvious. The stutter effect is obvious. So let's start from scratch and build this stutter effect. Okay, so this is the synth pad progression without any stutter effect. So step one, we are going to create a new software instrument track of the type pattern, and it's going to create a sequencer for me. And I'm going to use that to program some hi-hats. Now you can pretty much use any of these sounds really, because I'm going to mute the output. I'm going to turn off stereo output on this, and I'm going to set it to 32 steps. And I'm going to move that region there. I'm going to drag it out so it goes from bars 1 to 9. So I've moved the sequencer region from bars 1 to 9. And I'm just going to find a hat, because I like to use hats in this instance. And I'm just going to drag some notes in. Just drag them all in. Technically, you could just click on the left here. You can select from 4 up into sort of 64th notes. And you can also add some fluctuations to the timing of those notes as well, with like 1T, 2T, 4T, and so forth. And if I play it, so not overly inspiring, but what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to go over to the synth I've got here, and I'm going to go to the gate, and it's enabled, and I'm going to sidechain it to, I'm going to find the hi-hat 1, so this instrument 34. I have hidden the other one, hence why I've got instrument 13, 14, 15, and so forth. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to just stick with the default settings for the gate. And if I play it now, you should hear that stutter effect. It'd be really basic. Okay, and what you can actually do is use the threshold to control the sort of depth of the effect. So I'll start to drag it to the left, and you'll see what I mean. And if I go the other way, so I'll put it back to minus 50, and I'll go the other way. Actually, I quite like that more pronounced effect. I'm going to leave it. That's minus 20. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the pattern, and let's create something interesting with the pattern here. And you can actually, in Logic, in the sequencer here, if you click the arrow facing right next to the name of the instrument, you can actually control parameters here, such as the velocity, repeat, the note, and the octave as well. So in this instance, I'm going to, let's just randomly remove some notes and see how it sounds. So, okay, it sounds all right, but you get the idea, and you can play around with it to come up with the sort of sounds that you want. And then the cool thing about the repeat at the bottom is, so I'm going to add a repeat. You can just click on the notes or the sequencer, I guess it's the note, and you can just drag it up or down to create repeats on this. So I've added 4 on this particular one here. So let's see how that sounds. What might help is if I actually mute and turn off the output of the hi-hat. So let's put no output and see how it sounds now. It's quite cool actually. Using that repeat or the repeat feature here, it keeps the gate open longer. So, I mean, I could do that in the synth. I could go to the gate and I could adjust the hold and the release, but that's going to affect all of the stutter effect notes, as it were. So in this instance, using the actual, using the repeat element within the step sequencer, I can elongate that gate, the opening of the gate, which is quite cool. So let's add another one in. I'm going to add this one. I'm going to put this one at 8. I'm going to add another one here. So I say here, I'm trying to, I don't know where that is in terms of the number of the, in the sequence, it's toward the end. But you get the idea. Let's change it. I'm going to change it to 16T and see how that sounds. So this is slightly offset the notes now. That will go the other way. I probably preferred how I had it in the beginning, but you get the idea, folks. So you can play around with the step sequencer and create these really cool and interesting patterns. You don't really need to do much with the gate itself other, I find, than adjusting the threshold, which is controlling the depth of the flutter, of the stutter effect. Most of it for me is done in the step sequencer here using repeat and also getting rid of some of those actual sequence notes. So there you go, a really quick way to create a stutter effect using Sidechain in Logic Pro. Give it a go.